In June 2020, I made my very first cocktail. And about 2 years later, I was making better cocktails than most bars and restaurants. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing the number one piece of advice that I use to really accelerate my own journey as a home bartender. And I feel like if you guys follow that same advice, you'll achieve the same level of success that I did, but you'll do it even faster than in 2 years. If that sounds interesting, then this is the correct video for you. My name is Ron Veerpint. I'm a full-time medical doctor, and I've been a home bartender for over 5 years now. During that time, I've learned how to make over 100 different cocktails, and I've thrown over 50 cocktail parties. And I teach other busy professionals how to make cocktails at home. And for some more background about me, I've never worked a single shift, a single hour, a single day in a bar. I've never been a professional bartender. And also, I've never taken any formal classes or achieved any certifications on professional bartending or mixology or whatever topic you want to use that's in the related field. I'm completely self-taught. I started my journey in June 2020, and by June 2022, I was already better than most bartenders out there. I felt like I made better drinks than the ones that I got and that my friends got when we went out to bars and restaurants and things like that. And if you guys, like I said, if you guys follow the advice in this video, you'll be able to do that even faster than in 2 years. The reason it took me so long was because there was nobody like me that was doing this, teaching home bartending on YouTube. There were a lot of other people that were teaching bartending on YouTube, online, in books, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they were teaching it for, just bartending in general. So that's for both home bartenders and professional bartenders. I've geared this video and this channel in general, not just to bartenders in general. This is focused specifically on home bartenders, and it's focused specifically for people like myself that have very busy professional and personal lives. So whether you're in medicine like myself, or you're in tech, corporate, finance, law, whatever field where you have either a very busy professional life or you have a very busy personal life. Let's say you're a parent, let's say you're in a relationship, you're very close with your family, whatever the case may be. Or you may be like myself, where you have both. You have a very busy personal life, and you also have a very busy professional life. And, you don't have all the time and all the space and all the money and all the resources, et cetera, that a professional bartender has. You're not doing this for a living. You're doing something else for a living. You may be a parent. You may be a professional, whether that's, like I said, in tech, corporate, law, et cetera, et cetera. And, bartending is a hobby, but you want it to be a very important hobby. You really want to get good at this skill. And you really want to take pride in the fact when people come over to your house or your apartment and they say, the cocktail that I had is on the same quality or even higher quality than the cocktails that I get when I go out to cocktail bars, when I go to high-end restaurants and things like that. You really want to achieve that same level of success. And in this video, like I said, I'm going to be sharing the number one piece of advice that I use to accelerate my journey. And like I said, if you guys follow that, you will achieve the same level of success. Not just in 2 years, you'll probably do it in just 1 year or maybe a year and a half, but definitely much faster than I did. And the number one piece of advice that I want to share with you is that you should throw cocktail parties as frequently as you comfortably can, given your current situation in terms of your time and your money that you can use to throw these kind of parties. So what that looked like for me, during my first year as a home bartender, I was really learning the ropes, and I wasn't really as comfortable sharing my cocktails with my friends and family. So I didn't throw as many parties. I still threw a few here and there. I would say on average, it was about every couple months. So in the course of that year, I probably threw, somewhere between 5 and 6, somewhere in that range. And then when I came to my second year as a home bartender, I really wanted to, skyrocket, accelerate that journey. So what I did during that second year as a home bartender, I made a commitment and I threw 2 parties every single month. I think there was even 1 month where I threw 3 parties. So in the course of that year, I ended up throwing 25 parties. And what that looks like in terms of the actual sheer numbers, let's say on average about 10 to 12 people came to my party. Each person on average has about 2 drinks. How many drinks is that going to be? That's going to be somewhere between 20 and 24 drinks a party. And like I said, this is somewhere on the lower end. I had some parties where I had as many as 24 people. I also had some parties where I had as few as 6. So I would just say somewhere in the average, in that 10 to 15 range. So just to use more even numbers, let's say somewhere between 10 and 15. So that means in each party, I'm making somewhere between 30 and 45 cocktails. So in 10 parties, that's going to be 300 to 450 cocktails. Double that for 20 parties in a year, you're going to be making somewhere between 600 and 900 cocktails in just 20 parties in a year. I threw an extra 5 after that, so that's even more. On the higher end, that could be over 1,000 cocktails that you're making in just your parties. That's not counting the cocktails that you make, when you just have one friend come over, or you're in a relationship and you have a date night or something like that, or you're just on your own and you're experimenting with cocktails. So easily within the course of a year, if you throw parties as frequently as I did, you could easily make 1,500 to 2,000 cocktails in a single year. And it's not just the sheer volume of the cocktails, but also the different types of cocktails. Because if the most popular video on my channel right now is how many drinks should you have at a cocktail party? And spoiler alert, the number of drinks that I think you guys should have at your party, the best number is about 3. So if you're learning 3 different drinks for each party, because that's how I did it, I wanted each party to be different, so I had 3 different drinks for each party. That means, if you throw 10 parties in a year, you're learning 30 cocktails. If you throw 20, then you're going to be learning 60 cocktails. And the way I did it, I did 25 different parties. So that means I learned 75 different cocktails, and each one I made so many different times. So just in sheer volume, if you throw 25 different parties in the course of a year, you're going to be learning 75 different cocktails. And also on top of that, you're going to be making somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 cocktails just in terms of sheer volume. So that's really how you're going to be accelerating, because you're just, this is the same way as it is with the gym or with business or really any other skill you want to learn. You have to put in the time, you have to do sets, you have to do reps, and you have to get that volume so you get really, really get better. And it's not just about getting volume. It's by doing parties, you're also getting feedback. So you're getting feedback from your friends, your family, and the other guests that you have at your party. They're going to be telling you which drinks they like, which drinks they feel like, oh, maybe you didn't do as good a job with this, or you're going to be getting honest feedback from other people. And it's going to be a little biased, obviously, because these are not just random people. These are your friends and family, people that you feel comfortable inviting into your own home. So, there's going to be some bias, but you're going to be getting real feedback, and people are going to be telling you, maybe everything's going to be good, but people are definitely going to be saying which drinks are better than the other drinks. They might say every drink is good, but they'll say like, oh, your whiskey sours are really amazing. So then like what you're doing on that whiskey sour is really good. But maybe they don't give that same compliment to your daiquiri. So then you want to work and tweak and try to get the daiquiri to be better, so that the next time you throw a party where the daiquiri's on the menu, that also gets the same number of compliments as the whiskey sour that you got. So you really want to focus on that feedback too. So in order to really get good at any skill, whether that's home bartending or anything else in life, you have to have really 2 things. One is you have to put in the sheer number of hours. So that's hours, volume. In this case, it's about the number and variety of cocktails that you make. And the second most important thing is that you have to get feedback and then use that feedback to really grow. So that's why throwing parties as frequently as you comfortably can, which in my case was going to be, in that case, twice a month, that's really what made me level up so much as a home bartender, because I was making I was learning new recipes. I was making just tons and tons of cocktails. And also I was getting feedback from my friends and family on how to make those cocktails, on which cocktails were good and how to make those cocktails better and other things like that. And on top of that, I was also learning all the skills of not only home bartending, but also of hosting parties, which is a very important part. It essentially goes hand in hand with home bartending. So I learned how to be more hospitable. I learned how to put on a show for my guests. And I learned all these other tips and tricks that really made me not just a good home bartender, but also a good party host. And these 2 skills, like I said, they go hand in hand. So you learn one, you learn the other. And that's really because you're not just learning home bartending so you can make a couple drinks for yourself, maybe a couple nights a week after you get home from work. You're probably, like, if you're like myself, you want to learn this hobby not just for that, but also to throw these parties so that you can really build your relationships. This is a very social hobby. So if you're like me, you're going to be using this hobby to build your friendships, to build relationships, to become closer with your family, things like that. So, it's very important to put these things in practice, because as I say frequently on these videos, you can't really call yourself a home bartender unless you serve your drinks to other people. And that's really the whole gist of this thing. It's not just, it's not just about wanting to become better as a home bartender. It's also about wanting to host and serve your drinks to other people, because I think that's the most important thing as a home bartender. And so just to summarize, if there's one thing you can take away, if you're really wanting to accelerate your own journey as a home bartender, the most important thing that you can do is to host parties as frequently as you comfortably can, given your own situation in terms of time and money and space and other things going on in your life. I would say, something that was reasonable for me at that time was to do twice a month. So I would say if you're in the same position that I was, you can go ahead and also do twice a month, and you'll also really level up super fast. If you can't do twice a month, try to just do it as frequently as you can. Maybe it's once a month. maybe it's 2 times every 3 months, something like that. And for those of you that may have some excuses, I honestly had the two biggest excuses of my life. Like I said, I started this journey in June 2020, so that was the very start of the COVID-19 pandemic. My first 2 years as a home bartender was the same first 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic, which is the most socially isolating period of my entire life. And for most of you watching, unless maybe you're like a 90-year-old that was alive during World War II or something like that, this is probably the most socially isolating time of, that was the most socially isolating time of your life. And I still found a way to learn this hobby and to throw parties twice a month for an entire year to really level up my own skills as a home bartender. And the other big excuse I had, like I said, I'm a full-time medical doctor. For all medical doctors and in the United States, the busiest time of our entire career is during residency. And the same time when I made my first cocktail, June 2020, that was when I started my residency. So June 2020 to June 2022 was the first 2 years of my residency. So those were the busiest 2 years of my entire career. So I learned how to become a home bartender and how to host parties, and I threw parties twice a year during the most socially isolating time of the last 50 to 75 plus years. And I also learned it during the busiest 2 years of my entire career. So, I had as many excuses as is possible. 2025 is definitely a lot more open. It's not nearly as socially isolating as the early 2020s were. Maybe you guys are at different places. Maybe you guys have other things that are going on in your lives that are busy. But I want to share this video because during the busiest time of my career, I was still able to do this. I was still able to host parties twice a month. So if you value home bartending and you think you want this to be a very important part of your life, you really value this hobby, you want to get good at home bartending, then do the same thing I did. No matter what the situation was, it was COVID, it was my residency, I still hosted parties twice a month. And if I can do that, you guys can too. Because like I said, I never took any formal bartending classes. I don't have a bartending certificate. I never worked a single day as a bartender, and I was still able to do this. And after those 2 years, which if you guys follow my advice, you can do it even faster. You can probably do it in a year or a year and a half. After those 2 years, I was making better drinks than most professional bartenders. I was making better drinks than you can get at most bars and restaurants that are out there. Anyways, that's all I have for today's video. If you found the advice helpful, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I really like to do 2 types of videos on this channel. One will be like this type of video where I give general tips and tricks and share advice and stories from my own home bartending journey that I feel will help you guys become better home bartenders. And the other style of video will be tutorials on how to make specific cocktails. Thank you. Cheers.